Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a conversation we can only describe as one best enjoyed from the saddle. Precision, care, continence, miles, mindset, and the movement of medal-winning horses, where elite equestrian sport meets extraordinary logistics. Please join me in welcoming our moderator, Reji, editor, Stat Publishing Group, and our distinguished speakers, Nick Brooks-Ward, Operations Director, HPower Group, Henry Bullen, Managing Director, Peden Bloodstock, Paul Cheng, Executive Director of Operations, Hactl. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome them to the stage.
Very happy to have both of you. And joining me on the stage is Paul from Hactl, Hong Kong Air Cargo Terminal Limited. Warm welcome to both of you.
Very good to have us. Sorry we can't be with you.
I'm also sorry we're missing out on lunch.
Yeah.
Okay. Paul, happy to have you once again on my panel.
I love to join this. I hope you don't mind to see me again.
Okay. We have about 40 minutes before we let you go in for your next set of meetings online. I would like both of you to introduce yourself, the company, and your interest in the horse transportation. I think besides horse transportation, Nick, I think you do a lot of other events around the world. Just give us a sense of the horsepower behind HPower Group.
Yeah, thanks very much. We are one of the world's largest equestrian and ceremonial organisers, certainly in the United Kingdom and also around the world. And this year, we've just done two major events back to back. We've just come out of the Royal Windsor Horse Show, the 83rd edition of the Royal Windsor Horse Show, and also a national event to commemorate the end of a conflict in Iraq 15 years ago. So yeah, it's quite a busy time. We've been together, we've been founded for over 35 years, and we organise various equestrian events around the world, including London International Horse Show, the Royal Windsor Horse Show, and many occasions there. And also for the second time this year, we managed and delivered the Longines Hong Kong International Horse Show.
Yeah, so I'm from the Peden Bloodstock, which is a global equine logistics company. The Peden name has been synonymous with shipping horses around the world for a century or so, actually. My father, I took over from my father in 2000. He has been instrumental in the management and evolution of horse transport, having been an Olympic rider himself. We've actually had members of our family involved in the Olympics, either competing or organising the transport side since 1960. So Olympics, big events, and horses are very much in our blood from start to finish.
Yeah, both of you have the pedigree of horse transportation is really, really amazing. Paul, you want a brief introduction for the benefit of both of them and then for the audience?
Okay. For us, we handle quite a lot of horses every year. Roughly about 300 horses a year. So not just about the normal racing horses, we also handle equestrian horses. And also when Hong Kong was holding the Olympic, it's one of the locations for the equestrian races. So we one of the handlers over there. We handle actually, since the Hong Kong Longines Masters, where they been in Hong Kong in 2013, we were the first handler to handle the Longines Masters equestrian horses. And then back then we continue for a couple of years. Yeah. So we can say that we are quite honored to have a chance to handle such kind of special horses. Later on, I look forward to actually have a close conversation with you guys because you all are experts. So we can share with all the audience here. So how we really handle all these special horses to bring a good experience to all the consumers.
Thanks. I don't know if the people in the audience how closely you read news about horse transportation. Something that caught my attention, of course, since the last 13 years since I've been covering transportation and logistics, I have been covering also the live animal transport, particularly the show jumping, racing horses around the world. I've seen the horse in Liège airport, thousands of horses actually transit through that. I think ahead of the Olympics, next Olympics in Los Angeles, you will see thousands of horses actually moving around. I think if anyone Googles the news about horse transportation, you will see, I think it was at Peden, did about several thousands of horses for the Rio Olympics. And quite recently, there was this thing in the news about 147 horses stranded in Doha just before the crisis that happened, and they had to be moved to somewhere else. This was they actually moved by road to Riyadh, and then it got on to two Qatar Airways 777 freighters that was parked there, and 73 plus 74 horses were transported to Liège. So this is an interesting area that we as a publication we cover, and we have seen that growing interest in something like this, and we would want insights from experts like you to contribute to what we call is the experience economy, and how horse races, show jumpings are actually so important into transportation and logistics. Let me come to specific questions. Let me start with Nick. 3,200, I just picked up this number from your website, 3,200 horses across 4 arenas in the Windsor Horse Show 2025. That's like, it's more than an event. It's like a small city of elite animals, each with its own temperament. And that's something that I always wonder, if the horse refuses to get on a carriage or get on a plane, can you really force that animal to be boarded onto a plane? Just tell us about what is the single most important thing that logistic partners must understand before you sign up with the next contract?
Yeah, I think you're right to say that horses don't particularly, if they don't want to do it, they're not going to do it. But by and large, they're trained, and they're athletes, and they are trained to compete, and they're trained to get on aircraft. And Henry is far more aware than that. But sometimes they just don't want to go. It's a bit like humans. I think the most important thing from our perspective is you've got to work backwards. You've got to start at 0 day, which is when the first horses arrive, and then you've got to pull it backwards. So you've got to say to your logistics team, right, this is 0 day. How are we going to get them there, and how are we going to get them there on time? I also think that particularly at Windsor, we've got to remember that it is within the private grounds of His Majesty the King. And Windsor Castle is the oldest inhabited castle in the world. And we have a huge responsibility to ensure that our logistics partners work and understand their responsibility. But the most important thing is to work from 0 day, work backwards. That's when your horses are arriving. That's when you need the facilities on site. And woe betide you if you're dealing in, I mean, I would say that we have at Windsor 2025, 2026, and Henry's far better than I am on this, probably 400 elite competition animals at the venue. And those elite competition animals, those elite competition horses can value between 10 million sterling to 5 million sterling each. So that is a huge responsibility for our veterinary team, for Henry's team, for the equine logistics, because they're coming from all over the world. And there is a huge amount of money at stake, but also primarily is horse welfare. That's where we have to go from. 0, go back to horse welfare, and then you can start.
Henry, even though we say these are cargo, we can't call it cargo because these are premium passengers on a plane. These are athletes in its own right, each one costing millions of dollars. There is particularly, like, what does it look like the 48 hours before they get on a plane or they actually reach the destination? What are some of the non-negotiables when it comes to horse transportation, specifically for some of the elite events around the world?
Well, I think the non-negotiable is that we have to get that horse on an aircraft. There's that famous saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. But we've got to try and make it drink in a way. The individuals have worked for years, even decades, to get a horse to this situation, and this place in life, and to fail them at that point is just not in our psyche at all. As Nick said, we work very closely together. Our families have been working together for many years, and so it's really important that we work with the organising committees and the local authorities to make sure that we can all agree that the key point of any event that we're dealing with actually is the horse. And when you say a horse, as Nick has already mentioned, an equine athlete is exactly what they are. They are athletes, and they need to be treated with huge respect. It's not their decision to get on the aircraft, it's our decision, or the competitor's decision, or the show organiser's decision. So we need to make sure that we can move them in the best possible, safest way. And again, Nick referred to welfare. That is the key milestone of everything we work around, because without the horse, we don't have a competition. But from our perspective, the non-negotiables, we have to negotiate on everything we do, because we're dealing with a live animal with 4 legs, a brain, and a big heart that is putting its trust in us. But also then we're dealing with all the local authorities, be they customs, local transport organisations, the veterinary organisation, local governments, permit requirements, veterinary, you name it, everything. So there's so much far-reaching in it. We're not dealing with put it in a box and send it as cheaply as possible. We're putting it in a container specially designed, and we have to build everything around that to make sure that the horse can travel quietly, calmly, and arrive in the best possible shape. But our planning usually will start, years in advance. As Nick mentioned, we work together on HPower's organisation of the Longines International Horse Show in Hong Kong last year and this year, both massive successes, and that takes a lot of planning. So it's years of planning.
But I also think, Henry, the most important thing actually to remember is that these horses are like children to the grooms. And when they say goodbye to their horses, hand them over to Henry's wonderfully expert team of grooms and vets to get onto that aircraft. It's like saying goodbye to a child and we'll see you in 36 hours time. That's what it is. So it's the whole package.
I have a curious question. Like when I travel with my son and daughter when they were really young, and they didn't want to kind of travel, or for some reason they are crying, we can still convince them, persuade them, or kind of threaten them, and then get them onto the plane. But what happens if the horse refuses to step into a ramp and then get into an airplane? Has that really happened? And if it refuses, can you just take them off, or do you still force them to get into the plane?
Yes, absolutely, it can happen. As I say, they have got their own minds. I think maybe if you discussed your children with which class they could travel in, economy, business, or first class, and if they were going in first class, they'd have the best ice cream, popcorn, and films on board, then they'd be more than happy. We have a similar situation with horses. So they travel in economy, business, and first class. So economy is 3 horses to a container, business is 2, and first class is 1. So it depends on the type of horse you've got, but a lot of them will have traveled. When you go to a World Games or an Olympics or a big race meeting, a lot of them would have traveled a fair amount beforehand. So we have an idea of how they travel, what their quirks are. We work very closely with the individual grooms and national federations. So we have an insight into what their possible behavior could be like. But the most important thing is a calm attitude to horses, because if you show fear and panic, then that, like any animal, actually, it transfers onto them. So we work on a very, very calm basis, allow time, whilst we want to move them from A to B as quickly as possible. If it takes an extra 5 minutes and they get there safely and ready for competition, that's all that matters. When you push, panic, scream and shout, things tend to go wrong in any situation, just with a crowd of people. And it's the same with horses. But we have ways of coaxing horses in. It's time. Possibly we have to back them into a container. We possibly have to just wait, literally let them take their own time. But it all works. And also, just to step on quickly too, because I think this is quite important from Hactl's point of view, it's the loading space that you have. You mentioned Liège. Liège has built the most, and we worked with them on the design, built the most fantastic loading facility and stabling facility that any airport in the world has, I believe. And we work with them all the time. But going into Hong Kong, in partnership with Hactl, the Hong Kong Jockey Club, and Cathay, they have very good unloading and loading areas. No airport is actually designed for the shipment of horses. It's people and cargo, dead stock, I'd call it, or whatever you want to call it, dry freight. But there's some airports that have the great organisation, a good basis to move horses, and if they don't have them, we have to create them. So it's a very much a collaboration between so many different stakeholders. But to go back to your point about loading horses, generally speaking, they're very, very kind, accepting animals, and they trust in us, and therefore we have to repay that trust by looking after them and just doing things gently.
Nick, you want to add something?
No, I think Henry's absolutely right. And having seen them come off an aircraft and having seen them get onto an aircraft after a long haul, it is, particularly as they are elite sports horses, sports competition horses, they do need to travel business or first class. There is no doubt about that. And the way that Henry's team manage that, but it's not just about getting the horse on the aircraft. For something like the Longines Hong Kong International Horse Show, Henry will be sending out a team 2 to 3 days in advance to get to the airport, to make sure that everything is right, to get to Hong Kong International Airport, to make sure that everything is right for that arrival of the aircraft with 60 world-class elite horses on. So it's your ground crew as well.
Okay.
Yeah, this is something that we hear in the cargo community. So we hear instances of how passengers have kind of come across different experiences in different airports, and what do passengers do? They take the mobile and take a picture or record a video, and then say that this is the unpleasant thing that happened as I was traveling, and then you use all social media to kind of amplify that message. And in the cargo world, these are boxes or packets or live animals traveling around the world that they don't tweet or they don't actually have a social media. So of course, we have to make sure that these are actually handled with care. On that note, let me turn to Paul. You must be proud to hear that Hactl has the capability to take care of these premium customers. Hactl cargo terminals are known for handling boxes and tons of cargo, inanimate cargo. When it comes to horses, you have an experience of being part of this several years back, and you continue to have Hactl as an individual responsible for the horse races in Hong Kong, and now as responsible for operations in Hactl. What is that some of the highlights of moving these athletes who don't actually tweet or as social media?
Okay. First of all, I want to echo the Nick and Henry saying. I think it's pretty important because Nick and Henry also mentioned about they talk about the horses like trial, taking the premium or business classes. Yes, it is. When we think about, for example, as a ground handling company, when we think about how we are going to handle the horses, we think about, is it the same? Is equestrian horses the same as normal racing horses? Then I find out the answers should be different. Why that should be different? Because the racing horses normally come by aircraft, probably freighters, normally just come with a few horses. But for equestrian horses like Longines Master of Hong Kong, that is a big event. Back to the 2013, we used to handle up to 63 horses, equestrian horses, in one single aircraft. That means all the things are happening on the handling. The success of that event lie on the handling at the last mile at that aircraft. From our handling perspective, that's why at that moment I start to think about it. How are we going to do differently? If we follow the basic IATA standards, they have a very clear guidelines, procedures, talking about how you should handle the horses, transport by air. But they don't distinguish the racing horses or equestrian horses. They don't talk about how many horses you're going to handle in one go, what kind of special attention and care you need to take care of. No. So at that moment, actually, they talk quite widely. When the first Longines Master came to Hong Kong, I was also there. I was joining a pre-meeting with all the parties. We have a very long hours, so many preparations, so many coordinations. But apart from that, what we learned is that the most important part is, if we want to make it the last mile a success, the first thing you need to understand from the horse itself. The horses, as Nick mentioned before, they're like a trial. They are very sensitive to noise. They will be easily scared. Once they are scared, what happens? They may get injury because they are put in a container. That container purely specially designed for horses, but still narrow. You can't compare with a business class. Of course, you can have a kind of business class more spacious, but still can't compare with that. Imagine that horses from the age to Hong Kong, more than 10 hours. Even a human, if you take the flight for 10 hours, you get tired. A lot of things can happen. We have a human. We can watch the video, nice movie on the plane. We feel enjoyed. We have nice food. But the horses know what they have. They have the hay. They have the water. That's why the grooms come in. The grooms follow all the horses all the way. Take care of the horses. Make them feel relaxed and comfortable. But for us, we take up the last mile. It's also important. Because when the aircraft land in Hong Kong, actually, you imagine, there are so many horse containers on the same aircraft. The surrounding environment is very noisy and very bumpy, to be honest. So that is about how are you going to prepare, make them feel comfortable. Then we start to design the whole process. First, before they come, we'll coordinate with Airport Authority to arrange the particular parking stand, the closest one to our handling area, our horse handling centers. Once they land, we'll supervise, we coordinate with all the organizers, which container should unload first. And then we unload bit by bit, one by one, slowly. For all the people need to follow the instructions. Because if you move too fast, you scare the horses. They become very stressful. They may hurt themselves. So we start from the unloading process. Once it's unloaded, we will have experienced staff to tow the horse containers to our horse handling centers. But even throughout the handling process, you may think just about 5 to 6 minutes can be also a risky area. Because the open area is sometimes a bit bumpy. So we must control the speed of every treader. So we set the standard, only 5 kilometers per hour. You can imagine, pretty slow. But once we tow, it's still not safe enough. One more step, we have an escort car in the front. So the escort car go first, and the treader come after that, and control the speed at 5 kilometers per hour. And then move bit by bit into our horse handling center. Over there, we have a special platform, which is designed and approved by Hong Kong Jockey Club. We work together to set up a platform with all the required facilities, make sure that the horses, when they came out of the horse containers, They go in a platform, can feel comfortably, and then they move. They will go into the horse truck. That is a very long truck, about can carry 6 to 9 horses in one go. So we follow all the steps, every detail. We coordinate properly, and then bit by bit, then you can make sure that the whole process really smooth and efficient.
Thanks. Nick, I would like you to walk us through briefly this with specific reference to the last edition of Longines Hong Kong International Horse Show. What does actually look like before we see them at the Asia World, where you see them performing? What actually goes in, and how has things changed over the years for HPower in terms of horse transportation? I know it's a long answer. You need maybe a couple of hours to, but briefly, if you can tell us what actually happens before we see them on the ground.
I'll take you back to 2024 when we launched the first edition, where we exported or imported into Hong Kong the specific sand, which is a very specific type of sand that the horses perform on. We purchased an awful lot of equipment locally in China, in Shenzhen, and also in Hong Kong. And also we shipped an awful lot of equestrian equipment, including fences, into Hong Kong. Some of which arrived on Christmas Day, which didn't make my contractors very happy, but there we are. So what happens is the first things that you do in any venue, and as I said right at the start, you work from day zero. So this year the horses arrive on the Tuesday. So you take over the venue probably a week in advance. You build your grandstands, and you get as much of that infrastructure as you can in, and then you build, at the same time, you're building your stables so that the horses can literally come off that aircraft straight into the veterinary facility to check them, and then they go in and have a well-deserved rest, because as it was said earlier, it's a 14-hour flight from Liège to Hong Kong. So these horses are a little bit tired. But actually, the most important thing from our perspective is to make sure that the stable area is right, with the water, the veterinary facilities, the carpet underneath their stables, and all that. And also somewhere for them to stretch their legs. After a long flight, we all want to stretch our legs. We all want to go for a walk. It's exactly the same with horses. So you've got to get the sand in racing parlance, into the pre-parade ring, and then you've got to get it into the arena. So it's sequential. The first thing is stables, then it's sand, then it's horses' arrival. So it's all about sequencing and making sure that it doesn't clash. Sometimes it does, but making sure it doesn't clash.
Nick, I'm curious, so where did you bring in the sand?
Where did we bring the sand from? We imported it from the United Kingdom, because the sand, funnily enough, the best type of sand either comes from Belgium or Holland, or from the north of England. So you've got to get the right sand for competition. Otherwise, these horses and the riders will absolutely destroy you in their reports. So you've got to get that sand. We imported 62 container loads of sand into Hong Kong, and it left in October 2023 and arrived from Christmas Day onwards in 2024. It's now stored locally in Hong Kong.
Okay, anyway, the sand was not air freighted, so it was containerized cargo. It's like somebody said, like somebody was sheikh was building a palace in the Middle East, and they wanted good quality construction sand, and sand was actually airlifted from elsewhere. So yeah, you can have a desert, but then that may not be the best sand for construction purposes.
It's not the best sand. Definitely not the best sand. Yeah. So and I do think that is the key. That is the key to get everything right for the horses.
Henry, if you look at the number of events, I think the growth that you see in the whether it is live entertainment shows, music shows, sports shows, horse racing. I think it is the scale is immense, and there is more number of events that are taking place, which means that you are transporting more number of horses. The protocols to move horses around the world is very stringent. Animal welfare, security, and you deal with the different types of markets around different markets with the different maturity levels. What are some of the biggest challenges when it comes to regulations as you move these athletes around?
I think that's such a great question, Reji, because actually the map of the world has changed so massively in relation to horse sports. And actually, we have a very good one that we could show you, but I can't show you now because it just shows how it's grown over the years. The market is opening virtually every day. So the first thing is when a venue is located, or an organising committee decide they want to have a show at a venue, the first thing we have to do is look at the health protocol to import the horses. And that can be really, really difficult. If we're going to Hong Kong, there's already an established protocol set in place, but we have to renegotiate certain parts of it. If we're going to Australia, there are already protocols in place, but they're very, very strict. If we're going to somewhere new like China, which we did back in 2010, that's a whole new ball game, because most of the horses that travel to these events are based in the EU. And the EU obviously consists of many different countries. They all have to agree to the protocol. The protocols to come into Europe are very strict. But then also to go into China are very strict. So the disease and biosecurity risks involved are quite important. So there could be pre-export quarantine, post-arrival quarantine, that all have to be factored in. But actually, if you think about dealing with or negotiating with different governments and health ministries in different countries, it's quite intense and quite hard work, because everyone has their own set ideas of how something should happen. No one's right or wrong necessarily, but it's about a negotiation. We're very lucky in Peden Bloodstock that we have an excellent team, and specifically a very talented lady who has been working with the veterinary side for many, many years, and has actually opened up China and other countries as well. So we're lucky from that aspect. We stand out from every other logistics company, equine logistics company, because we do have our own veterinary side inside veterinary team. But then also you've got to think of the routings of the aircraft, the contingency side, if that aircraft had to be rerouted due to technical issues, where you'd stop on the way, and whether that country that you stop in can accept horses, have the facilities to look after the horses, but more importantly, can they leave that country and go on to the next country because their health conditions may be different. So I'm just conscious of the time and trying to be quite quick, but there are many different aspects of this whole operation that, again, as I say, it's not put it in a box and ship it. Not saying that that's what all the global event logistics is about, but when you're dealing with the beating heart and the biosecurity side, it gets very, very complicated.
Okay, a follow-up question to both of you. The number of horses, I don't know if you have a reference number for 2025 or 2024, and also the growth that you see, the number of horses that you have flown around the fall for various purposes, either you're moving it for some of your customers or moving them for races or show jumping. What is the average number of, or total number of horses that you fly them around in a year? 10,000, 20,000?
So from a numbers perspective, it's quite hard. Well, it's not that hard to say, but from our side, we'd be moving north of 5,000 horses a year, and that's a single. So if you actually, it's probably double that, because generally they're coming back again as well. We're not just dealing with, in our company in Peden Bloodstock, we're not just dealing with horses going to events. We're dealing with horses that are moving. Horses are moving to a new location. They've been purchased, or people rehoming or relocating. So yeah, it's well north of 5,000, closer to 10,000, depending on which aspect you look at. But also, I think another thing that's very, very important, and Paul was actually saying, between race horses and equestrian horses, it actually doesn't matter whether the horse, which criteria it steps into. That horse is still a living, breathing animal, and our aim is to make sure that whether they're going for a competition or it's someone's pony that's moving, the family are moving abroad, is that when they get off that plane, they can compete, or they can stand there and look like they left in the same state that they left. Just a quick example is in 2000, the Sydney Olympic Games, we shipped all the horses down there. It's a 24-hour flight. And there's quarantine involved beforehand and post-arrival quarantine. And actually, just to let you know how none of the horses were sick at all. There's something called travel sickness you can get, which is like a pneumonia in the horses. But none of the horses actually suffered any of that. But one of the horses was so alive and excited, it actually bucked its rider off to take the next day. The rider broke its arm, and therefore the horse couldn't compete because no rider. But that's our aim, not to buck the rider off, not to get the rider to fall off, but our aim is for that horse to arrive in peak performance, so that it's ready to take on the challenge that it's being thrown out there for. That is our key. So it's a naughty side of me, but I was quite pleased that happened, because it proved that we had done a really good job. It was unfortunate for the rider couldn't sit it, and very unfortunate for the team and the rider they couldn't compete. But it shows what planning can do.
Nick, do you have any specific anecdotes?
So we would have coming through our equestrian events, and as Henry says, the equestrian sport is opening up all over the world, and Henry and I and our team are working on 2 new projects at the moment that we can't tell you about, but they're quite exciting. But it is opening up. So we would have, I'm just trying to think, exactly the same number as Henry, about 5,000 horses through our events each year.
I think I just add to that, actually, we're talking about sort of 5,000 horses from our side, 5,000 horses flying. But then if you take in the EU side,
Yeah.
Nick mentioned you mentioned 3,200 horses coming to the Royal Windsor Horse Show, which is a spectacular event in itself. Those horses, a lot of horses are coming from the UK, but also the number of elite horses coming over from the EU is huge as well. So when you take that into account, we're talking about 10 to 11,000 probably a year we're moving.
Okay, one quick question to both of you. The kind of crisis that we find ourselves in, the West Asia crisis that's been on since the 28th of February, and before that, Ukraine war continues, airspace closure. How are you managing your access to air freight capacity when it comes to some of these events? Do you have to find alternate solutions, alternate carriers? How challenging is to operate something like this, an import for important events like this at a time where you have a serious problem of airspace being closed probably at the last moment?
Again, I'll quickly jump in here if you don't mind, Nick. So we were involved, or we shipped all the horses for the Dubai World Cup, the biggest racing event in Dubai, or in the world, actually.
Kudos to the team that actually did that, because despite the fact that that was the only race that happened in Maida and in Dubai.
Exactly. And that's, I was hoping it's that week. I was hoping to be with you for that reason. But that did take place. That did take place, and all credit to the organisers and to His Highness Sheikh Mohammed in Dubai for making that happen. It was a real dedication and belief. Our plans changed minute by minute, like everyone's did, and working with Emirates Cargo and His Highness's own airframe himself, we actually managed it, and it went off without a hitch, and again with fantastic racing. So day by day, we are all having to, in the whole logistics world, having to realign our thoughts, change our plans, because airspace is closed. I mean, to get to Dubai now, it takes longer because we're having to avoid certain areas. To get to Hong Kong, we're having to avoid certain areas, so the flights are slightly longer. It is a challenge, but that to me, actually, I quite enjoy it when it goes slightly awry, because then that's like thinking on your feet, making sure that your contingency planning is all in place. And at times, actually, for the Olympic Games that took place, the equestrian side took place in Hong Kong, we had numerous contingencies in place, and because they actually had a typhoon at the time as well. We had to land the horses in Dubai and offload them for 12 hours. We also had a second airport at Macau to go into if necessary. So it's about contingencies, and actually what has proven what proves the best logistics operators is their contingency, and then situations like what has happened in the Middle East. Nick?
Totally agree, Henry. I'll give you one example. Of where things go awry. We were running the Queen's Platinum Jubilee in Windsor Castle, the late Queen's. We had the fabulous New Zealand Army Band. A P wanted her Commonwealth troops to be part of it. And we lost all their instruments in freight. We rang Henry, who was doing all the shipping. We said, can you please find these instruments? We found them in a random airport in East Midlands. They should have been in Heathrow. The instruments arrived 3 minutes before the New Zealand Army Band were due to go live in front of Her Majesty the Queen. But we got them there and they performed. So it's all about adaptability and speeding
We're
flights.
almost at the close of this. Thanks. Almost at the close of this session. I know both of them want to step into the next meeting. Paul, Hactl has actually kind of raised the bar in terms of setting standards, building relevant facilities for the different cargo commodities, and that passes through your terminals. Again, you've built a beautiful setup for animal transportation, horse transportation, because Hong Kong is a city that hosts many of these events. When you look at the growth potential, what else? What are you looking at in terms of how many more events and how many more horses that will pass through? Which means that would you be investing more in terms of building additional facilities, making sure that these are completely taken care of as the business increase over a period of time?
For us, in terms of our handling capacity, we are very loved to handle the many more horses to Hong Kong. So for us, we won't set a limit how many horses I want to handle. Instead, I want to attract more horses to be handled in Hong Kong. For example, more events will be handled in Hong Kong, will be held in Hong Kong, so that we can handle more. In terms of infrastructure, we are well there, but we are not complacent, because we understand that when you have more things to handle, your requirement will be even higher. So we will continuously reviewing how our handling, our infrastructure, technology applications, to see how we can make our handling even better. For us, we always have we say to my teams like this: every day is different. No matter how many horses you handle before, every day is different, and every horse is different. So you treat it as a new one. Each handling is new. Then you need to reviewing your process, reviewing the infrastructures, technology application, everything. Once you keep the pulse on the market situations and the industry standards, you'll be able to adapt quickly and handle even more.
Both to Henry and Nick, before we let you go in, any special, any interesting closing comments as we wind up the session? What your message to the logistics service providers? They are all listening to you in the audience.
My message, Raj, is 3 words. When working with a logistics partner, it's detail, adaptability, but the key word is trust.
Keyword is trust, while there's also detail. Yes, Henry.
I think that's exceptionally well put, Nick. Same for our side as well. Detail is key, contingency is key, planning is key, but also the most important is for us, and I know for Nick as well, is ensuring that the welfare of the horse is paramount through this whole thing. Because without the horse, we don't have the shows. And as I said, they're trusting us with that. It's not their choice to travel. trusting us. And also just say, I'm sorry that we have to go, because I could sit here and talk about it forever, because I'm passionate about it, as everyone is, I'm sure, in the logistics world about their own area. But it's a very exciting thing that we're dealing with, and I'm very sorry that we're not with you to experience all the other meetings.
We will make sure that we get you next time for that's a guarantee. Just give me a few more seconds. So we said about details, trust, welfare of the animals, welfare of the horses. Paul, you want to add?
I want to add two things. The things is when you hang about horses, handling horses, you remember that we will take their welfare in the heart. When you think about it, then you will always go focus on three things, actually the same. Attention, attention, and attentions. There's no magic formula. But the only thing, when you are attentions, with sufficient care, you are going to handle it well.
Pay attention to the details, build trust, and then that you will make sure that the welfare of the horses is taken care. I know we are talking about a complex subject, extraordinary complexity of how you take care of the animals who do not actually talk, but there is a relationship that is being built between human beings and the animals or the horses that you transport. Of course, we live in a world of trust deficit, but I think we need to trust our partners. We need to trust what we do. With that note, I'd like to end this conversation. It's been an extremely fascinating conversation with you, both Nick and Henry and Paul. Unfortunately, we couldn't have you here. We said that these are about, we are talking about experience economy. So you can watch a horse racing on a television, but it's a different experience and different feel when you are actually experiencing it live. That's what we are talking about. We will continue to touch base with you, explore possibilities of content creation related to this, and we will make sure that we will get you for the next edition, wherever that takes place. With that note, a round of applause to Henry, Nick, and Paul.